June 5th, a bombshell report. The Guardian's Glenn Greenwald has secret documents revealing how the NSA is collecting the phone records of millions of Verizon customers. 2 days later, June 7th, the Washington Post's Barton Gellman, working with filmmaker Laura Poitras, follows up with another huge story. Through a top-secret program known as PRISM, the NSA is also digging into the internet data repositories at major tech companies. The NSA is surveilling both our telephone and internet communications on a scale unimaginable before. This directly contradicts a claim made months earlier, under oath, by the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
2 days later, on June 9th, a former NSA contractor, Edward Snowden, comes forward as the source of the recent NSA stories. He's left the United States and is in Hong Kong. He says he's a whistleblower, and he's handed over his trove of evidence to journalists.
The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong.
Snowden is later forced to hide out in Russia, as over the next 6 months, the world's newspapers begin publishing the NSA's and GCHQ's most closely guarded secrets. Dragnet surveillance on entire foreign populations, targeted surveillance on diplomats and world leaders, including key allies, the black budget of the U.S. intelligence agencies, the deliberate tapping of underseas fiber optic cables, a commitment to breaking encryption standards. We also learned that the NSA has secretly hacked into Google and Yahoo's data links. Barton Gellman calls this the most explosive story.
That NSA was breaking into the data links, the privately owned links between, for example, 2 Google data centers. There's one in Finland and one in Hong Kong, and they are intercepting the data as it crosses there, and they're intercepting that in very large numbers. They're collecting, for example, hundreds of millions of email address books. That was a shocker for me, and very much so for the industry.
And despite repeated assurances from the White House and the spy chiefs, internal NSA documents and FISA court documents reveal how the NSA broke privacy rules thousands of times every year. In Congress, there was a revolt against the spy agency.
We're here to answer one question for the people we represent. Do we oppose the suspicionless collection of every American's phone records?
In the summer, the House of Representatives comes within just a few votes of defunding the NSA's bulk records collection program. Despite the defeat, NSA reformers are emboldened. A flurry of legislation drops to rein in the NSA's powers. The courts get slammed with lawsuits from groups like the ACLU and the Electronic Frontier Foundation. One federal judge calls the program likely unconstitutional. But less than 2 weeks later, another federal judge upholds the program. The Supreme Court looms. And then the White House submits. The president orders an independent review panel, which later comes out with 46 specific recommendations to reform the NSA.
If you had asked me 6 months ago, as we were about to launch into this enterprise, whether after half a year there would still be an intense global conversation that was picking up momentum as the year ended, I would have said probably not.
And so heading into 2014, change in some form is almost certainly coming to the NSA. And with all 3 branches of government now weighing in and drawing similar conclusions that the NSA has overstepped its bounds, Edward Snowden becomes the whistleblower he said he was all along. 6 months ago, he took on the most powerful office in the land. And as the year winds down, he's declaring victory, saying he's already won. Who knows if Snowden will ever be able to leave Russia? But Snowden never wanted the story to be about him. He wanted it to be about the NSA. And when it comes to that story, Snowden is no longer in control. The journalists are, and they're promising more revelations.
Edward Snowden is not guiding the stories. He handed over a certain number of documents to me and 2 other reporters 6 months ago. He told us he hoped that we would use our own judgment. He has not tried and would not succeed in telling us what to publish, what not to publish. I'm going to keep at it for a while. That's about all I think I want to say.
In Washington, D.C., Sam Sachs, RT.